Thank you for joining us and welcome to Blunt Business. I'm your host, Sean Eubanks, Vice President, Business Development for STRAINWISE Consulting. And on our show today, we have Chip Forsythe, who is with Rebel Coast Winery. Chip started making wine for other people his freshman year of college in 2004. After graduating, he started his first winery, ultimately selling it in 2012. Shortly after, he launched his award-winning second winery called Rebel Coast, which is carried in 36 states and available in every major chain in California. Now he owns a motorcycle, 2 VW buses, and 2 rattlesnakes. Chip grew up in Texas, Ohio, California, and Massachusetts. Chip, welcome to the show.
How's it going, man? It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm doing well. Let's get the awkwardness out of the way first, if it's okay. Don't you think it's demeaning, Chip, to refer to your legal team as rattlesnakes? I mean, I'm sure they have actual names, right?
I often joke about, man, I wish when we're paying the bills, like we should have just been lawyers instead of winemakers.
Absolutely. But you have 2 rattlesnakes, and I know you have a partner, Alex, who is a co-founder as well, and you guys have mentioned on your website a couple times about the rattlesnakes, but you actually have 2 live rattlesnakes.
Yeah, I caught them, they're babies, Jeffrey and Ruger. I caught one spearfishing in Big Sur maybe 5 years ago, and then one hunting at my buddy's ranch 5 years ago, and they're in love, so they just keep everyone on their toes.
Excellent. Well, listen. Thanks so much for coming on the show. You've got an incredible thing that you're doing here. You've got cannabis infused. This is the very first cannabis infused, alcohol removed wine.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It was kind of a no-brainer for us about a year ago when we started legally trying to do this. I've been making it in college just in the back corner of cellars at wineries, and a lot of winemakers make it. It's just for personal consumption. For years, prohibition just ended, so it's great to be able to finally get this thing out there for people.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very, very complicated. I know you guys on your website you sort of explain how this came about, but there's a lot of trial and error with figuring out, okay, do we want to, first of all, what's legal? Let's stay out of prison, first of all. Second of all, how do you go about doing this? And you guys did a lot of trial and error. Kind of walk us through that and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, our first big challenge was alcohol, or like non-alcoholic wine does not taste very good to begin with. Like everything out there on the market, no winemakers really take the process very seriously. It's a very inexpensive product. It's like beer makers kind of scoffing at a dual beer. So finding the right team to put to work on making the world's best non-alcoholic wine to start was one of our biggest challenges. And once we overcame that, we got a really, really good tasting bottle of sauvignon blanc. The next step was to infuse it with THC, which is right out of the flower. It's an oil. Oil and water don't mix. And first making THC oil water soluble, so it goes into complete solution and it stays suspended in the wine, was our first big problem. Once we solved that, a traditional edible, when you eat it, everybody can attest to this, you don't feel anything for 45 minutes to an hour. And then all of a sudden, you're really stoned. And that was something that we did not want to do to people, because this is drinking wine, traditional wine is a very social thing to do. And you're drinking a glass every 15, 20 minutes, out at dinner, having a couple of glasses, and not being able to feel any effects for 45 minutes to an hour was just not the route that we wanted. That's not what we were trying to create. So once we got the wine tasting good, we figured out how to get the THC oil into the wine. Our next big step was to make it very fast acting and to find out how to make THC fast acting. We ended up partnering up with a company out of Colorado that they're just a bunch of scientists and researchers. So they've created something that you feel the intoxicating effects of the THC. It depends on your weight. It type guy and girl, but in 8 to 10 minutes. And the high for traditional edibles, it lasts usually anywhere between 6 to 10 hours. You know, it depends on how long or how much you consume and how fast and all that. But everyone's probably had one too many brownies at some point in their life, and it's not a pleasant experience. Like, it's just, it's not what we're trying to do. So we crafted our high, and it has to do with the bioavailability of the liquid soluble THC that we put into the wine. We crafted it to last 2 to 3 hours. So your body can process it a lot faster than traditional edibles. And the next step after we got that done was to make it not taste terrible once the THC is added into the wine, making it not very bitter and masking the taste and aroma of the THC was our third step. And it took us a year to get to where we are today, and now we've got a really, really delicious bottle of wine that mimics the effects of a traditional glass of wine and the taste, and that's what we're putting in the bottle now. It's fantastic.
Well, and how do you get it to? How do you control dosage first of all? So if I'm going to have a glass of wine, do I just assume that is, the total potency of the bottle divided by 4, or how do I go about understanding that?
Yeah. So there's 4 glasses in a bottle of wine, and on the wine bottle we have on our label we mark out when you pour it out, like you can see exactly how much glass is. So as you pour it out, you pour it and stop, see that you're at the first glass mark, and then you can pour it in the second glass, but you roll that, and you can see that that's in the second glass mark. So we don't. There's a lot of apprehension around this because it's the first liquid edible that is a social experience. So we use really low dosages of THC per glass. It's kind of a struggle on a marketing standpoint because Prohibition just ended, and historically, like we compare it to Prohibition of alcohol. Back in the day, the most expensive, valuable bottle of alcohol you could buy was straight moonshine, and it was just like 90 proof in a glass jar, and it was just, you were buying it for the intoxication. That's how traditional the marijuana industry has been. Like you go to your dealer, and they're always like, "This is the best stuff. This is the strongest. This is the craziest." But now, after Prohibition of alcohol has ended, you're looking at a bottle of Everclear is collecting dust on the bottom shelf, and you're not the most valuable way to procure alcohol is like a nice scotch or a really nice bottle of wine. So we're seeing that change, and we've created something in preparation for that.
So did you ever question your methodology, thinking, well, because you're taking the alcohol out of the wine first, then you're infusing cannabis back in it. Did you ever question that and think, why not just grape juice or another easier product to work with?
Oh, every day. We tried everything. I mean, we tried everything, but nothing tasted good. It literally just tastes like grape juice, and that's it. That's not really. I'm a winemaker. Like, that's not what I want to bring to the world. So I want to bring something that people are familiar with, a bottle of wine, the flavor of sauvignon blanc, and to mimic that, it took a lot of work and energy. But it was really fun to do too, because we're creating something. We've got a great team around us. We've got a great, a bunch of people that are experts in each one of their fields that are working together to make this happen.
Well, and the process for handling wine and getting it to a certain point is very similar to the manufacturing and processing of marijuana.
It's not as regulated.
Okay.
The alcohol industry it's been around for at least 70 years now, after Prohibition. It's not as highly regulated in the laws. You know what the laws are, right? Like, if you want to start a winery, you just follow a packet. You just follow the laws that have been in place for years, and you can do it. It's not there's no trial and error on this. Like, what we're doing right now in the marijuana industry, these laws haven't even been written yet. Like, we have to like spend a lot of time and energy on the logistics and following the rules that we don't know what the rules are. Like, emergency regulations just came out. Like, there's only 90 licensed dispensaries in California, and it's past January 1st. There's like 3,000 ones operating now. So, and everybody's trying to follow the rules, but it's very hard when the rules haven't been written. And it goes city by city and county by county, and then by the state, and then the federal government. Everybody knows how their stance on this. So, yeah, on the production side, it's everything's sterile and clean. But the production side is not even, in our opinion, for what we're doing, it's not the hardest part anymore now that we figured that.
Gotcha. We do need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be rejoined by Chip Forsythe, who is one of the founders of Rebel Coast Winery. During the break, check out their website, rebelcoast.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back. All right, great job, Chip. You ready for segment 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, brother.
Anything I should change? Was that good?
No, it's great. It's great. Just telling your story. I mean, it's so revolutionary what you guys are doing. So telling the story, getting the message out. Don't be afraid to promote yourself and get that out, because there's so much interest around this. I mean, there's buzz in our office right now. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, who are these guys? This is genius, you know.
We've gotten, it depends on what type of analytics you follow, but anywhere from 350 to 700 million impressions in the last month.
Wow.
Just from like, yeah, I mean, people are stoked on it. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of it.
Wonderful. Welcome back to Blunt Business. I'm your host, Sean Eubanks, Vice President of Business Development with STRAINWISE Consulting. And on our show today, we've been talking to Chip Forsythe, who is one of the founders of Rebel Coast Winery. Welcome back, Chip.
What do you do here?
So, explosive growth for you guys is an understatement. You've been featured on just about everywhere in the news. I mean, everywhere from USA Today, New York Post, Newsweek, Maxim Magazine. Your impressions are around 350 to 700 million. Are you overwhelmed right now on the marketing and promotion side?
That is an understatement. Yes, we're very, very, very busy on, honestly, just even handling customers' emails, phone calls, and questions. People are as curious about this as you would think. So, kind of doing customer or consumer education on how strong it is, what it tastes like, and then they purchase the wine. It's a full-time job.
Well, you guys are pioneers, but you're also really successful. You're in 36 states currently, and you're in every major chain in California. So you already had that footprint. Now you've stepped into the cannabis space, and it just seems like you guys are ready to take over. If I'm an investor, I'm looking at you guys closely and wanting to find out how to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, we're raising around right now, and because of all those things that you said, we're in a very fortunate position for fundraising. I went through a Silicon Valley incubator for just tech startups. My little brother went through Y Combinator for his tech startup. My dad runs a venture capital firm, and so I've been around, and I've fundraised twice before this. So fundraising traditionally, founders, it's a time suck, and it's a distraction, and it's really hard. Like, people telling you no, that your idea is not something they see as a real financial investment is kind of a drain on you. But this position that we're in with our product and the experience that we have right now, we just have to pick which investor we want, who's going to contribute more than this one. And that's not a situation I don't think I will ever be in again in my life. Very few people are ever in this. So it's exciting, which is not something people ever say about fundraising.
Yeah, congratulations. Was the experience in the incubator worth it? Did it give you the education that you needed?
Changed my life, yeah. One of the things that you taught me how to really build a business, but the founder of the incubator, his name's Adam Draper. He's massively famous now because of he made 100 investments in Bitcoin companies starting back in the day in like 2013. He really hedged his bets on that, so he's very popular right now. But one of the things he told me that's kind of been a guiding light in what I've been doing for the last 5 years or 4 years is just build a brand you can live. Like if you build a brand that we would be thinking, like I'm not a very bougie guy, if I put my last name on the bottle, or if I called this Forsythe Family Vineyards, wrote it in cursive writing, and tried to be really pretentious about it, which a lot of winemakers and winery owners are, then I would be, our sales and marketing would not come as naturally and genuinely as for us. And it's kind of like echoes in the back of my mind every time we're about to do something. Like, is this true to who we are as people? Because now our Instagram and our website is full of character and personality. That's just a reflection of us. So that was the main takeaway I got from you.
Excellent. It seems like you guys nailed that. If there's one word that you want Rebel Coast Winery associated with it, what is it?
Fun.
Yeah. I would guess that too. Your website's incredible. It reflects you guys' personality, but also your experience, and then honoring the legacy of your knowledge being passed from winemaker to winemaker to winemaker. You guys didn't just jump into the business, try to figure out wine and cannabis at the same time. You really have done your homework, and there's no wonder you've got so much interest.
Oh yeah, it's really it's a wild ride. I never thought I'd be here today.
So, Chip, what difficulty did you have getting started? I mean, and what current regulatory problems do you have, and what issues are the biggest facing your business?
That was tough. I'm sure a lot of people you interviewed had like a ton of different difficulties. Our biggest one, I always was confident that we'd be able to mad scientist a product that tasted good.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't really our biggest thing. And it really is the regulatory environment. It's hard to make something, try to assume what the laws are, decide if the risk of breaking the laws that haven't been made, if we're making the wrong decision, is worth it, and then if we can defend ourselves in, being like, look, we're trying to do the best we can. If the local regulatory agencies work with us on that. And that's really where we need our legal counsel. We work with Vicente Cedarberg, they're the largest marijuana law firm in America. And I'm on the phone with them. Me and Alex are on the phone with them at least once a day. So the undertaking that they took with us was, we knew it would be a long, hard road, and they've been a fantastic partner to work with them.
In all the states that you're in 36, which is the most favorable business climate for you when you are able to expand across the 50?
That's kind of a misleading thing. So our traditional wine was in 36 states.
Okay.
For the wine with alcohol in it, that's the
right.
winery I've been running for the last couple of years. But for marijuana infused wine, you cannot cross California state lines. So you can only sell that, and you can't sell it to. You're not. The reason we had to remove the alcohol is because you're not allowed to sell marijuana where alcohol or tobacco are sold. You're not allowed to sell marijuana mixed with alcohol or tobacco. That's why nobody can make pre-rolled slips. And so that's why we had to remove the alcohol. So because of that, all the relationships we have with our alcohol distributors in these 36 different states, and mainly here in California, they can't touch marijuana. So we have to build whole new relationships with whole new sales chains. And our new distributor here in California, who's again, like they're still going through all the processes of getting licensed and closing on their warehouses and stuff. So every single day, we're putting out fires and just problem solving, not only on the production side of things, but also on the distribution side. And right now, funny enough, our biggest, as of today, we're solving it in the next couple of weeks. Our biggest problem is child resistance testing for a bottle of wine with a cork in it. And it sounds hysterical, and I never would have thought that a bottle of alcohol was child resistant, had never been tested for child resistance. But it's something that we found out a couple days ago, and now we have to get like 100 3-and-a-quarter-year-old children to try and open up a bottle of wine with a corkscrew, which they can't do. It's hard enough for a lot of adults to do it.
I was going to say, I have difficulty. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a foreign thing, and they don't teach you that in college.
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, wait, that's a real thing, and we have to do that and get these tests done. And they're like, yeah, nobody's ever done it on a bottle of wine before. Like, okay, cool. I guess we're going to go down that road. So today, that's our biggest hurdle to overcome, is setting up the testing.
And once that happens, do you feel like that's where you got a reasonable amount of R&D that needs to be done there? As ridiculous as it sounds, I mean, do you worry that they might change that and go, oh, treat it like regular wine?
I mean, if they do, that'd be great, because regular wine doesn't have to be child-resistant testing. It's regulated by regular wine is regulated by the ABC, the Alcohol Beverage Control Board, and what we're making, since there's no alcohol in it, is regulated by the FDA. So it's considered like a juice in our mind. So it'd be two different regulatory agencies flip-flopping. I don't see that happening, no.
Gotcha. All right, guys,
It would make life easy, but no.
Well, I hope they do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be rejoined by Chip Forsythe, who is the founder of Rebel Coast Winery. Don't go away. We'll be right back. All right, Chip, last segment. We're going to go into kind of post-legal California, if you want. Is there anything specific that you want to cover in this last segment?
When you're saying post-legal, are you saying what the
recreational
is going to be like? Okay, I mean, it honestly, yeah, I'll talk about it. Nothing's really changed.
Okay. Is there anything you definitely want to get out in this last segment?
Alex is probably going to be like, dude, you should have talked about this.
Yeah.
But no, I think we're kind of covering all of the bases.
Great. We'll get into specific products, though. We'll dive right into your website. I'll kind of guide them through that. So that way, when they go to your website, they're kind of hearing, they've already heard a little bit of it, and they're like, oh yeah, all that makes sense.
Oh yeah, we could talk about how online we can only sell on pre-orders.
Okay.
And how, because of the federal government, we have to use a credit card processor that is outside of the country, and how we have a big fail rate for that. And there's literally nothing to do about that. There's no solution to that until the federal government declassifies this as a Schedule I substance and moves to banking with it.
Perfect. We'll get into that for sure. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Blunt Business. I'm your host, Sean Eubanks, Vice President of Business Development with STRAINWISE Consulting. And on our show today, we have been talking to Chip Forsythe of Rebel Coast Winery. Chip, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so again, I think there are people listening to this right now thinking, oh my gosh, how do I get my hands on some cannabis-infused wine? On your website here, you've got a pre-order button for the Sauvignon Blanc, but tell me about that process and sort of the challenges with legalization that you're running into with that.
Yeah, so we can't, because we're still waiting for the regulations to be finalized, we can't legally sell, and this is happening for almost everybody in the marijuana space on the recreational side. You have one set of licenses governing medical side, and a whole new set of regulations and licenses governing the recreational side. So for us to offer our marijuana infused Sauvignon Blanc online for online sales, which is a gnarly concept. Like 10 years ago, you would never have considered being able to sell marijuana, anything online. But for us to do that, we have to, because it's federally illegal to do banking in this, which includes credit card transactions, we have to use an out of the country credit card merchant processor. And because it's out of the country, when people try to purchase our wine online or pre-order it, we have about a 40% fail rate on people's credit cards, which is really frustrating for not only me, because we've lost out hundreds of thousands of dollars to people trying to purchase it, but frustrating for someone like going on something, finding something you like the day of Amazon, which I love, not being able to push a button and get it shipped to your door in 2 days is kind of the norm. And it's a huge headache for us. We field phone calls and emails every day about people frustrated about not being able to get their credit card through, because most banks, namely Chase, use out of the country transactions as fraudulent, so it just stops the transaction from even happening.
Gotcha. So you need the end of prohibition federally to solve that problem for you as far as you can see.
Yeah, or a merchant processor that'll charge credit card it's in America they're considered high risk transactions. So somebody that will be willing to do that. And there are companies out there it just takes a while to get approved with them because you are selling marijuana online. And they have to make sure that you're not selling out of the state. You have to make sure that you're licensed. It's a brand new idea. Seriously, who would have thought you could do this even 5 years ago? So it's exciting, but it's also everything's getting built as we speak.
And what do you see going forward that could be most helpful? I mean, obviously, federal legalization is going to take a lot of work. Recently, with Attorney General Jeff Sessions rescinding the Cole memo, that sent some shockwaves. We had a couple of people in Massachusetts pull out, some processors and otherwise that directly affected banking and directly affected the retail customer. Is there any middle ground that you see, or do you know of any companies out there that are starting to work on this to help you out there in California?
As far as banking goes, you can bank with a state chartered bank or credit union if they're like a small local one that's not federally insured. So Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo won't touch this because the federal government insures all of their states. State chartered banks and credit unions are not insured by the federal government, so they're only under state laws. So banking on the state side is not an issue for us. We've got a great partnership there. Things that would change that would make our lives a lot easier. I hate to say it, but just time. If we could fast forward 6 months into the future and have all these rules and regulations out there in the open, they say what you need, tell you what you need to do, you follow the rules, and you build a business and bring it. That would be the dream.
Well, and another thing you're doing, Chip, you're a de facto ambassador for cannabis for the FDA now. I mean, you're interacting with the FDA because you're regulated as a grapefruit, as a food there, as that. Is the FDA telling you, are they giving you props for the type of extraction method? Are they involved and concerned with how you're extracting, how you're infusing? Are they regulating that part of your business?
Yeah, and we're following all the rules for them. One of the things that they're the most excited about is that we're using really low dosages of THC. We're not, like I said, this is 4 milligrams a glass. We're not trying to make something that's 40 milligrams a glass.
Right.
And really, so the change in the way the amount people are consuming at different intervals and how often they're consuming it is something that the FDA is really like. They're happy to see because there were I guess chocolate bars and like Rice Krispie treats that were like 1,000 milligrams in a Rice Krispie treat or chocolate bar, and that's insane to think about. Like, that's not for your average social consumer at all. Like, that's an actual medical, it helps now with the medical, that has medical issues that need to be addressed by THC and CBD. So yeah, the FDA is really stoked on the approach we're taking on this. And I think we're leading the charge on how people are going to be consuming cannabis in the next 50 years.
Now, as the cannabis consumer is different, and as they become, first of all, you're reaching across to the general consumer, which is incredible. It's incredible for the industry. It's going to bring people to cannabis, and when they discover cannabis one way or another, most people are going to benefit from it in some way. Do you anticipate, Chip, that the cannabis consumer is going to come back to you and say, hey, I want something strain specific, or I at least want to know that this is an indica or sativa, or maybe even a percentage of a hybrid? Do you anticipate that getting feedback from the retail customer that puts pressure on you to produce in a different way?
Absolutely. It's like there's vodka, there's gin, there's tequila, there's beer, and then there's wine. Each has a different role in a social interaction, which has a different ritual behind it. And cannabis is no different. Like indicas have a whole different effect on you than sativas and than do hybrids. So people's desires on what they want out of this, like we're here to make people happy. And for a white wine, we use 100% sativa to use it with, and that's because it's a white wine, it's fun, the sativa's a really sunny, energetic, like happy, giggly high, opposed to an indica, which we'll probably do in a red wine, launch that in the next 8 or 9 months, where that'll be like something that'll be more relaxing, toned down, great to listen to music to on a date night or something like that.
Well, and I think what's also beautiful about what you've done, Chip, is you've taken wine which people are familiar with. They understand the different varietals and how that's going to affect them and what they're going to taste like, which is wonderful, because the other people in the cannabis side of things are going into, you see a lot of terpene development, cannabinoids being added back in to try to handle taste and flavor and try to perfect that. And what I'm seeing as a trend is, these guys are starting to go, you know what, we're not going to go with OG Kush or have someone try to seek out, a soccer mom's not going to seek out the taste of green crack, but you know what, they'll be familiar with a vanilla or a blueberry, so they're infusing those terpenes back into it to try to make cannabis taste better. But you guys have already got all of the wine fans who are already familiar. You're really ahead of the game here.
Well, I didn't mention that when we were first creating this product. So when I was making this in college, the traditional way of just adding flour to traditional wine, the end product was wine that smelled like wine, or that tasted like wine and smelled like cannabis. And so when we were creating this, there was no rule on it. In my head, weed wine smells like weed, tastes like wine.
Right.
So I became an absolute expert in terpene extractions and hydrosol extractions and essential oil extractions from the cannabis plant. And I created a wine that smelled like green, fresh bud, and it tasted like wine. And gave it to everybody who didn't tasting files and stuff like that to see what was going on. And it turns out nobody wanted a wine that smelled like stinky weed. It was just a tremendous amount of pushback on that. And we're like, fine, we'll make it to smell like wine and taste like wine and just intoxicate with THC. And that was when we really kind of hit a home run. People were very, very impressed and very happy.
Wonderful. Chip, we're almost out of time here. Let's go through a couple of your wines. Number one, you state, and you guys, your philosophy is to create one wine at a time. You're not involved in 5 or 6 or 10 or more, but you've developed a lot of products here. Tell me which wines I can purchase from you.
So on the traditional wine side, it's taken 5 years. We created 5 different wines for that. So we have 2 red wines, 2 white wines, and a rosé. And they're all, in my opinion, fantastic. It took years to do that, to expand the growth that way. But I'm pretty sure your listeners are probably more excited about the marijuana wine. So for 2018, we're only doing one sauvignon blanc. We're focusing on that. It's very hard to make anything else. It's very hard to do two wines at the same time or successfully get them in people's hands. Doing 2 wines, so we're just focused on sauvignon blanc for the marijuana side. But Reckless Love is my favorite red wine to make. I've got a big handlebar mustache. I put it on the bottle as a joke 4 years ago, and it just took off. Mustaches became super cool all of a sudden, and it's a pretty memorable wine bottle.
Outstanding. Yeah, I invite all our listeners to go to your website, rebelcoast.com. Chip, it has been just a great time having you on the show. Thank you so much, first of all, for doing everything you're doing for the industry. You're reaching across to the general consumer, which is what the industry needs. You got a phenomenal product. I wish you the best of luck with investors and everything you've got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody is, like on the investor side, if anybody is incredibly excited and interested about this, they can just shoot me an email. My email is chip@rebelcoast.com. We'll sit down and have a glass of wine and see if it's the right thing.
Sounds great. Guys, and we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be rejoined, joined by Jay Kotzker. We're going to talk about the high five talking points, including recreational dispensaries boosting nearby home prices, New Jersey's sworn-in new governor, Phil Murphy, who is an advocate and fan of cannabis. Also, we're going to talk about 20 state attorneys and their responses to Representative Ed Perlmutter's marijuana banking bill. Don't go away, guys. We'll be right back.